Alright, this is a video on how to change the waste tube assembly on an HP pagewide. In this case it's a 4500, but the process is pretty much the same for almost all of the pagewides. The very first thing you want to do is, through the panel, tell it you're going to change the maintenance cartridge, and then have it start sending the maintenance cartridge across. As soon as it starts sending the maintenance cartridge across, then kill the power to the machine. What you're trying to do is get the print heads, this print bar, raised all the way up, which in this case it is. This is all the way up. So if I come down here and I look underneath, I've got plenty of room, and I've put up the spittoon beam. So I have plenty of room to work in here. We're going to be working on this side of the machine to change the waste tube assembly. So the very next thing that I do is I take off this panel if it has it, and these panels, and I also take off this side panel. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then start the video again. Okay, so now you can see I've taken off these panels that were here, and this is your fan assembly. So if we open up the fan assembly, you'll see the filter here. So this is the waste tube assembly that we're going to be replacing. You always want to check under the fan. Make sure there's not ink above the fins. In this case, it's probably okay. But I will change that filter and this waste tube assembly. So I'll show you on the inside what I do to take off that waste tube assembly. Okay, so before I change that waste tube assembly, one of the first things I do is I put down a pee pad to not get ink on the customer's floor. I also glove up, and I get a flashlight. So I'm going to come over here to the front of the machine, and I don't take off any of these panels. It's a little bit harder to do this way. But where we're working right now is with this spittoon beam assembly. I've got the flashlight on it right now. So first thing I do is I push the spittoon beam out. Okay, and then we're just going to disconnect this lever that's right here. I'm going to raise that up. And then I'm going to pull the spittoon beam out, and I'm going to slide it back. Okay, so it's kind of hard to do with the camera, but I'm sliding that back. So now it's up to the front of the machine. And then the other thing that I do is I take that latch assembly and I latch it closed, because if you don't do that, sometimes it falls apart. So then the next thing I do is I'm going to pull that tube assembly off of the rail. Now, do you see how I have it here? Then I'm going to take it, I'm going to twist it. Twist it back. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, but now it's released. You see how it's released from that? Now it's ready to come out. So I'm going to go back to the other side and show you how that's done. So before I do that, I'm going to take off this panel right here. Okay, so I've taken off this panel. The screws are there. It's just 4 screws. Take that panel off. Now I'm ready to pull the assembly. So the first thing I do is I get that loose. I come up from up inside, and I twist this so that it will release and come out. Slide it out. So now I've got the tube assembly here, and then I put the end inside this. Inside here. I'll show you what it looks like after. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. So what I do is I loop it like that. I feed that little tube inside there, and that's how I put it in the plastic bag. So whenever I change a waste tube assembly, again, you can see I got a couple of drops of ink. But I put the waste tube in this bag that the new waste tube comes in, and then I put that bag back in the box, and then I'll replace those filters, and I'll show you that. So the filter replacement's really easy. So next I'm going to go ahead and put this new tube assembly, and so the first thing I do is I take and I feed this back up inside. I get it all the way up inside there. And then I don't buckle this in, but I just set it loosely in place. I don't push it down where it needs to be just yet. I go to the other side and finish that up. Okay, So I'm on this other side now. I've got my flashlight. I've got the tube assembly. I just need to reach down and grab it. So I pick it up, and then I usually use my flashlight, and I have to position this, and it's kind of hard to do. It's really hard to do one-handed. It's a lot easier if you have the light shining just right. But right there, the tube assembly is in place. Now I'm turning it to the left. Now see how that's positioned in? Or I mean, I'm turning it so that it locks in place. You want this little hook on the back side to be up and firm. Okay? And now this little white tab on the other side, I don't know if you can see it very well, that white tab has to go underneath that rail. Okay, and then the assembly should slide forward and backwards. Okay, and then I'm going to reattach the spittoon beam. So the only thing that I've done right now so far is I've moved the spittoon beam out. And now I'm going to try to line it up with this. I don't know if you can see it that well, but you want to get that right up and above, and then you latch it in place. Now the spittoon beam is back in place. So then I just slide that spittoon beam back. Now it's out of the way. I can put this print head cap back down, and I close up the front. So we're done on that side. So now the only thing that I have to do is on this other side, just come over and now reposition this, click it in place. That little switch right there, that's what makes it say, hey, the waste tube assembly is attached. So that's what you do, and then change this filter, and then button everything back up, and you're done.